Hey guys, it's Caleb with White Metal Games again this morning, and I got a special video treat for you. Finally, the smoke has cleared out enough that I can actually start shooting again. You can see that it's actually still up towards the top of the house. Problem is the garage has been sealed for winter, so I basically seal it up tight so that it stays warm in here during the cold winter months so I can continue to work. But the problem is there's no real circulation. The only air hood in here is here. And unfortunately I can't let the smoke out this way because you can see the pipe's not installed. And I've got a guy coming to install the pipe in a couple weeks, but for now, the air just doesn't go anywhere. So it just has to disperse naturally, and that takes some time. But anyway, regardless of which, I got a fun little video for you today. So this is an army we just completed. We finished this up about 2 days ago, and we're just finally getting around to filming it and videoing it. As you can already tell, it's a Warhammer Lizardman Army. It's for the Warhammer line of miniatures produced by Games Workshop. This is about, I would have to guess, around a 2,000 point army, give or take. It's actually a supplemental army for a client. A repeat client had us do some match work. And what match work is they'll send us a sample model, and then they'll basically ask us to match the original model as best we can to try to create a consistent and a congruent feel for the entire army. So as an example, over here in this unit, this is one of the original models for the army, and then this is one of our supplemental models. So as you can tell side by side, they look very close, like just everything from shade to color to basing. It's very similar. We can normally match within about 90% or so. Obviously you can't get 100% because you have to match exact colors and that sort of thing, and that just doesn't really happen very often without knowing the exact details. We're going to be doing another matched army for this client in the next couple months for a Tyranid line, so be sure to check that out. Alright, so onto the army. It's a pretty cool army. To be honest, we haven't done a lot of Warhammer armies, so we're not as familiar with this range of miniatures as we are the 40K range. But as you can tell, it has 2 units of Saurus Warriors, 1 unit of Skinks with javelins and shields, 1 unit of Old Ones, or I think they're called maybe Croxagores. They're like a Saurus Elite unit. And you can tell they've got these bone helmets, and then they're led by this character Saurus, who's real cool. He's got this big beefy shield, which I like a lot, and gave us an opportunity to play with some jade painting. We really enjoyed that. So yeah, you can see him there. A cool aspect of this model is all of the pink and the scar tissue around his face that we liked a lot. Let's see, what else? So we've got 2 of these, they're not called stegodons, I forget what these guys are called. But one is carrying the Ark of Sotek, which is this giant diamond that kind of glows with a bright yellowy light. And there you can kind of see the shading on there. That was just simply an airbrush effect. It actually worked out really, really well. If you apply a couple layers of glaze to a white medium or white model while it's still wet, the glazes will naturally kind of settle, and you get this really cool kind of dark glow effect I really like a lot. You can see the lighter areas up top, and it creates sort of a natural highlight. You can see there on the lines how it naturally kind of recesses from the lines, or from the edges, so it creates kind of a lining effect, which I thought was really, really neat. And then the actual models, these guys were a joy to paint. We got to play with a lot of shading, and we played with a lot of contrasting colors, and you can see that the carapaces were actually about 3 different shades of purple, starting from a very deep, rich, vibrant, very dark purple on the inside, kind of a Necron Abyss, to a very light kind of lavender purple on the edges. And then we did the same thing for this one. He is the same model, but he's carrying, his plating is different, and he's carrying this big, giant thing that carries all these little snakes in it. Again, played with contrasting colors a lot, had a lot of fun with the oranges and blues on this model. Really enjoyed painting these guys, they were a lot of fun. What I didn't enjoy, putting all these guys in place. Lizardmen actually have all these little skinks that ride around on howdahs and on these giant dinosaurs, and they're kind of a pain. Like, to actually get them in position, not so great. And you have to paint them separately, obviously. And then one more big model, we have a Stegodon here. Stegodon, again, was a sample piece we did for kind of in a study of contrasting colors. You can see the deep oranges there in the recesses and the light yellows up here. And then we did kind of a gray carapace, or I guess scales, in several different shades of gray. You can really see it here emphasized on the horns. And then a nice gold howdah, different shades of gold, with the blue skinks riding on top. They got some sort of character priest up there kind of leading them. These guys were also kind of a pain to put in position, but you know what? The finished product looks really good, so I'm pleased with that. Finally, rounding it out is these 2 characters. One is a Slan Mage Priest. He's kind of an old mummified Mage Priest. And he's got his little buddy there on the side. I forget what his name is. And then this guy, I do remember his name is like Te-Echo, and he's sort of a skink priest. I like the flying bases these guys are on. A lot of fun with those. The feathers on the side here, those were a nice sort of way to splash some color onto an otherwise kind of grayish looking diadem. And then finally his little globe, if you can see there in the center, that was actually done with metallics. We actually found a couple different red and purple metallics that we blended together wet, and came up with a really cool sort of swirling effect. And you can see there's some detail on the back of that. One other neat feature of this army is these movement trays. The client asked us to do movement trays to match the basing in the army. You can see they're pretty glossy, but that's really meant to look like water. And the reality is, once the models are on them, it really blends very, very well. So you can see here an example of the models actually on the bases. And then you see these little gaps in there. The gaps actually really work well. It's because it looks like they're just marching kind of through a swamp. Yeah, so it works. I like it a lot. And we did more bases than he needed, so he's got plenty of extra movement trays. So this is what we call sort of not a narrative base, but a decorative base. So these are some decorative basing and some nice decorative movement trays, and those were a lot of fun to do. The entire army took us about 5 weeks from start to finish. That's including assembly. And it cost the client, give or take, around $1,500. And that was for assembly and painting on this project. That did not include the cost of the models. Once you cycle that in, it adds in a little bit extra. But this is a good example of our level 2 work, and it's also a good example of matching another client's previous painting. So if a client contacts us and they say, hey, I've painted some models, I need you to match them, or hey, I had another commissioned painter do some work, but I'd like you to match it. This is a good example of what we can do. And just to show you another one, here is one of the original skinks. And then let's find one of our skinks. Shouldn't be hard. There you go. Let me actually put this side by side. So it's not bad. There are some slight differences in shade, like the purples are just a little bit different, but otherwise the blues match very, very well. The highlights were really hard to do in purple, we actually found. Getting it up to that very, very bright, sort of vibrant highlight was tough. But we got pretty close. I think we got in the 90% range. And I think the client will be overall very, very satisfied. So that's it for now. If you are interested in having some models painted or commissioned with us, contact us at caleb@whitemetalgames.com or info@whitemetalgames.com. And that's it. Progress in the studio on all our other projects continues as normal. We'll be continuing to work on this client's very, very large commission over the next month. We've also got some smaller commissions coming our way. We've got a Valkyrie Vendetta combo we're going to be working on soon. We've got a previous client who's going to request some backup work. So yeah, we have absolutely got more time on our hands. We've recently had some availability open up with our day jobs. So if you have some projects you're interested in having quoted, just contact us at caleb@whitemetalgames.com. And until then, put your minis where your mouth is.